In this lesson, you are going to understand how to write lines of music. Now, this lesson is going to be split into two parts. The first part, I'm going to talk you through it. I'm going to point to some examples. In the second part of this lesson, I'm actually going to get on some staff and talk you through it in real time as I go through it. Using pages from my #1 bestseller book, The Best Music Theory Book for Beginners, that sold over 5,000 copies. My name is Dan Spencer. I'm your music mentor. The full playlist with over 100 music theory lessons is in the video description. I recommend watching them in order. And now, back to the lesson. So, step number 1 is going to be to divide an entire line of staff in half with a single bar line. You see that bar line right there in the middle? That is what you need to do. Just divide the staff in half with the bar line. Then you're going to add 2 more bar lines, one on the left and one on the right, dividing the staff into quarters. So 1, 2, 3, 4 measures you should have. 4 measures you should have. There we go. All right. In step 3, you're going to add a percussion clef, a time signature, and a final bar line. Here's the final bar line at the end, closing it up. Here's the time signature. Here's the percussion clef. Now, your time signature can be 4/4 or it can be 3/4. Either way is fine. You should experiment with both. As a last step, you are going to use your understanding of measure math to fill in each measure with the correct number of beats or counts worth of notes to agree with the top number of the time signature. Oh, that turned into a heart. That's perfect. So you can see, sure enough, in each one of these measures, there's 4 beats or 4 counts worth of notes. Let's hop into some staff paper, and I'm actually going to talk you through it and walk you through it in real time. Here we go. Step number 1 is to divide the staff in half with a single bar line. So in half, there we go. Use a ruler if you can to get your lines real straight. Then we're going to add a bar line to the right, add a bar line to the left to give us 4 measures total. Then what we're going to do, we're going to add a final bar line. So that's going to be 1 regular bar line, a little bit of space, and then another line that's about that thick. And you can see here's my one issue with what I just did, is that you can see those bumps of the lines of the staff. There you go. We want that closed off clean like that. We don't want to see those bumps of the staff sticking out, those extra ends of the lines. Then we're going to go to the left side of the staff where, sure enough, we've left that extra space. There's no bar line at the beginning of measure 1, and that's because at the beginning of measure 1, first we're going to write a percussion clef, and then we're going to write a time signature. I'm going to write 3/4. You could write 3/4 or 4/4. Well, let's make that 3 just a little larger there. Here we go. There we go. That's better. 3, 4. Excellent. And there you go. That's ready to now write 3 beats or 3 counts worth of notes in every single measure. So that's what I'm going to do now. So I'm going to actually write all my note heads on line 3 of the staff. That's 1, 2. Let's make that more oval, shall we? 1, 2. Here's beat 3. There we go. 1, 2, 3. And the next measure, you know what? We're going to do the opposite. We're going to start with a quarter note. That's going to be beat 1. There you go. We add the stem. And then we're going to add a half note for beats 2 and 3. There you go. In the next measure, we are going to add 3 quarter notes. That's going to be 1, a 2, and a 3. And then in the last measure, we are going to end as we started with a half note and then a quarter note. And you can see that each one of these measures, sure enough, is worth 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 beats, or 3 counts. I will see you in the next lesson. In this lesson, we're going to do a review of everything you have learned so far. There's still a couple more lessons left in this module, but this is going to summarize everything up to this point to actually allow you to start writing your own original rhythmic compositions. So you can actually come back and use page 24 whenever you want as a quick reference when you are writing to make sure you're doing everything the right way. So you don't have to flip through different pages of the book. You can just come straight to page 24, and that's going to have all the rules you need. So how to write music in 4/4. Number 1, every measure must add up to 4. Notes cannot cross the measure lines, which means you cannot write a half note on beat 4, on count 4, and then have it extend into the next measure. Each measure must have only 4 beats or 4 counts, and if you follow rule 1, rule 2 doesn't even matter. Rule number 3, whole notes can only be written on beat 1. That's right, you can't write a quarter note and then a whole note, because then that would be 5 beats in the measure, and we can only have 4. Half notes can be written or start on beats 1, 2, and 3. Quarter notes can be written on beats 1, 2, 3, and 4. You set up a line of music for yourself with the percussion clef and time signature of 4/4. Don't forget your final bar line. And then you write 4 beats worth of notes in each measure for the entire line of staff. To write a piece of music in 3/4, every measure must add up to 3. Notes cannot cross the measure lines, but if you followed rule number 1, rule number 2 won't even matter. Rule number 3, a whole note cannot be written in 3/4. This is because a whole note gets 4 beats or 4 counts, and each measure in 3/4 can only hold 3 beats in total. Half notes can be written on beats 1 and 2, and quarter notes can be written on beats 1, 2, and 3. You set up a line of music for yourself with the percussion clef and a time signature and a final bar line, and then you're going to write 3 beats worth of notes in each measure. As a reminder, measure math rules. Every measure must add up to the number of beats indicated in the top number of the time signature. Whole notes get 4 beats or 4 counts. Half notes get 2 beats or 2 counts. And quarter notes get 1 beat or 1 count. I will see you in the next lesson. In this lesson, you are going to understand all about note spacing and why note spacing is important when you are writing your own compositions. Each note should line up with a beat or division of the measure. So for example, this piece of music is in 4/4. You see the time signature says 4/4. So that means we're going to imagine in our minds that each measure is divided into 4 equal parts. See that? 4 equal parts. 4 equal parts to each measure. And what you're going to do is you're going to make sure that whatever beat or whatever count the note you're writing lands on, you're going to write it over that beat or count or over that division of the measure. Let's break down what that means. So you can see that underneath the staff, there's a count of 1, 2, 3, 4. You see that count? And you see how that count is evenly spaced out? Each 1, 2, and 3, and 4 is exactly the same distance from each other. Well, that right there is your division of 4, your imaginary division of 4, within each measure. So let's look at measure 1. And sure enough, each quarter note is lining up exactly with a beat or a count. Now, what's interesting is if we compare measure 1 and measure 2, you see we have 2 half notes, but these 2 half notes are not written right next to each other. No, they are spaced out evenly so they each take up half the measure. So you see this half note here gets 2 beats or 2 counts, and it takes up the space for 2 beats or 2 counts. Same thing with this half note right here. Takes up 2 beats or 2 counts. Let's look at measure 3. Measure 3 is interesting. So we have a quarter note taking up 1 beat or 1 count worth of space. Then we have a half note taking up 2 beats or 2 counts worth of space, and then finally a quarter note coming and taking up 1 beat or 1 count worth of space. Now you can see the whole note starts over beat number 1 and it takes up the entire measure of space. So this is what we mean by note spacing. And you can do the same exact type of thing if the music is in 3/4. So let's go back a little bit and check out our correct example of 3/4. And if we look at 3/4, we're going to divide the measure into 1, 2, 3 equal parts. 2, 3. And sure enough, we can see here that this half note is getting 2 beats or 2 counts worth of space. This quarter note is getting 1 beat or 1 count worth of space. And each quarter note gets 1 beat or 1 count worth of space in the measure. So what you're trying to do with note spacing is, in addition to showing the rhythmic value of the note, so you're not just showing the whole note, the half note, the quarter note, you're also showing how long each one lasts compared to the other. So remember, because the bottom number of the time signature is 4, that means the quarter note gets the beat or count, which means a quarter note is going to get 1 division of the measure. So if we're in 3/4, 1 quarter note gets 1/3 of the measure. If we're in 4/4, a quarter note gets 1/4 of the measure. And then the half note in 3/4 would get 2/3 of the measure, and the half note in 4/4 gets half of the measure. And then in 3/4, you can't write a whole note. So a whole note gets 4 beats, 4 counts, or the entire measure in 4/4. Let's look at some incorrect note spacing now that you understand these rules. Yeah, sure enough, you see how these notes are not evenly spaced out in each one of their divisions? Oh, that's no good. So you almost have like 2 notes in that one division, and then there's nothing over here in division number 4. See, this half note has got to go all the way back here. This half note has got to go back here. It's a mess. This half note should be over beat 2. Yeah, it really is messy. And this whole note here should be over beat 1. So when you space your notes out correctly, in addition to making it super, super clear which notes go where, you actually show anyone who wants to play your music, or you make it easier for yourself to read your music, because you're showing the actual amount of time that each note takes in the measure. I will see you in the next. Now everything really comes together. The note heads, the stems, the measures, the bar lines, the final bar lines, the time signature, the percussion clef, the measure math, the note spacing, all come together to allow you to now go and write your own music, your own rhythmic compositions whenever you want. So when you write your own compositions, it is an opportunity to create something new, something special, and something that shows and expresses your thoughts, feelings, emotions, and ideas. A certain amount of thinking needs to be put into remembering the rules, like remembering how many line length you need to make each stem, the different types of note heads, counting beats, remembering how to write notes correctly. And the sooner you can remember and memorize all these fundamentals, the sooner you are going to free yourself to focus on creativity and your expression. So to write and perform your own compositions in 3/4 and 4/4, you're going to pick a line or a space on the staff. You can write all the notes on one line or space of the staff, not different lines. You can pick one line or one space, and I'll show you down here. We have one composition where all the notes are in space 1, and here's a composition where all the notes are on line 4. So you pick one line or one space of the staff. Then you write your composition in 3/4, 4/4. Obviously in there, you're going to need to set up your line of staff for yourself to write with the final bar line, the percussion clef, the time signature, the bar lines. Then check your measure math, make sure it is correct. Then add clapping arrows if you need them, add a count of the beats if you need it below the staff, and then clap and count your composition with a metronome. If you're part of the VIP group, please post recordings of yourself writing and performing your own original compositions. If you're not part of the VIP group, post to the general music theory group. And you can also just tag Best Music Coach on any social media platform with a video or photo of your composition or of yourself performing your composition. And we love, 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 love to see you taking the first steps in writing your own music. I will see you in the next lesson. Oh, but it's not over yet. Click here to watch the next video lesson or up here for the full video playlist.